Hello, welcome to Simon's Trading Channel. Happy Monday to you all. I hope you're well and you've enjoyed a marvellous start to hopefully a marvellous week. And welcome back to another daily Bitcoin price action analysis with me, your humble host, Simon. Now, I'm trying to move this thing out of the way here that you can't even see on your screen, but it's proving to be rather irritating, so I'm just going to ignore it instead. Okay, so yesterday, we had a weekly closure on Bybit, so let's just take a little look. And yeah, it's there. And much like I said on Friday when CME closed like this, very similar. This is CME closure. That's the Bybit closure. So both very similar. Yeah, you know, it's a green closure, so it was a week of upside price movement overall, but it wasn't a very bullish one, and I think it just represents, resistance up and around the levels of the all-time high, which is, you know, to be expected. Yeah, and so not particularly surprising. So that's what I've got to say about the weekly closure. Now, let's put some more detail to the picture. And you can see the weekly momentum still well up on the MACD there. Let's just zoom down to the daily, or I will just zoom down to the daily. You can see that the area that I've declared for the last few days as being an area of significance, well, I've talked about it as just one price, which is 67,000, remains to be the significant price or area, in my humble opinion. And, you know, it's not difficult to see why. So from the bottom of the range, and this move up to this high, the price action since then, so that's been since the 20th of May, which is it's a good sort of 20 days. That doesn't look like 20 days, does it? 3, 6, 9, yeah, okay, it is about 20 days. So the price action since then has been pretty much sideways, but you can see that there have been no daily closures below this line. Therefore, it has been acting as support to price. And it continues to do so, which is why I've been saying over the last few days, I think probably since about here, I can't remember, but daily closures below there will then make this look like a double top, i.e. this is a failed higher high, with this being a high, this being a higher high, and then this not being a higher high. Thus, if you don't, or if Bitcoin does not produce a higher high on this daily time frame, well then it's not continuing the trend. Now it doesn't mean that it's the trend has changed. It just means it hasn't continued the trend, and therefore maybe some more sideways price action, or a ranging price action, much like the overall range remains between 56 and 74 in my humble opinion, and that applies to all time frames, going back to this daily candle here, which was at the end of February. So that's the overall range, but you know, there's now a daily range, and the top of that range is just here. And so you can see, just by me sticking a couple of lines on a chart, that if Bitcoin remains within these two lines, it's just going sideways within a range on daily time frame and other time frames. But closures back above 71.5 on a daily time, at least a daily time frame, or a few 4 hours, would then suggest more upside, so continuation of this uptrend. And the opposite would be true with daily closures below 67,000. At that point, so if I presume that the latter will happen, so the next significant move will be to the downside below 67,000, you can then try and figure out some likely areas that Bitcoin may receive some support. And the obvious one looking at the chart, or the obvious one with my eyes, is here. So let's see if I can be a bit more accurate. It's pretty much there. So call it 64,250. I'd say it's probably maybe an area between 64 and 64.5. That would likely give some support to Bitcoin should it start to close dailies below 67. If it gets down below there, then I think a move certainly into the low 60s and then maybe even a retry of the range low here in the high 50s is on the cards. Because at that point, it would be likely that Bitcoin had indeed changed its trend. Thus, so instead of being in an uptrend on the daily time frame, thus, if the things that I just mentioned come to fruition, it's likely that that would happen in the context of a daily downtrend, and that's just me surmising. So it's certainly, I guess it is a prediction, but it's not really a prediction. It's just me describing if this happens, then that's likely. So it's kind of one thing, then the next, like cause and effect. And as I said, the opposite would be true with daily closures back above 71.5. That would just be continuation of the uptrend. And effectively, the longer that Bitcoin remains within this, I'm going to call it a daily range, although it's got the best part of 2 weeks worth of price action. No, more than 2 weeks, 20 days, right? 20th of May, yeah, so there's more than 2 weeks price action, so you could say it's also weekly, a weekly range, but it's easy to see on the daily time frame. Should it continue within this range, then in the context of the overriding uptrend, I would say it's more likely to break to the upside. More likely doesn't mean will. And, there have been many range plays similar to this that have broken to the downside, even in the context of this significant uptrend. Let's see if I can see one. So there's a mini daily range broke to the upside. There's a mini daily range broke to the upside. I guess this here, it's not as significant a range, but that, did have a downside move first. This wasn't really a range, it was more of a continuation of an uptrend. This would probably be comparable. So you could see, and indeed here, so this was, part of the 30 weeks relentless, more or less sideways price action. That was more like a sort of continuation of just a downtrend, but not a very steep one. But this price action between here and here, that was certainly a range. And even though the most recent trend was to the upside, well, it did then resolve to the upside. So yeah, that sort of demonstrates my point. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if this can resolve to the upside or the downside. I think the longer it goes on, the probabilities tend to swing towards the upside. And for example, if indeed that was the case, so this is the 4-hour chart, you can see the momentum, my predefined momentum using the zero line on the MACD, it will likely cross back above the 0 line the longer that Bitcoin sort of grinds it up from here. And so you'd have momentum up on the 4-hour, momentum up on the daily, momentum remains up on the weekly. So, much like this price action from here to here, with momentum up on all of the significant time frames. Oof. Well, there you go. That's enough. That's enough, Simon. Listen, if you've enjoyed the video and you like listening to me talk about price action, then please like and subscribe, and indeed join me tomorrow when I will be back on the tube of you for Tuesday's price action. Enjoy what's left of your Monday. Take care. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.